The Lord of the Rings. Fellowship of the Ring. Book 1. A long-expected party is planned for Bilbo's 11th birthday. Most hobbits believe that Bilbo's longevity is unnatural, and they are also envious of his wealth. Hobbits like to gossip, and the old gaffer sits and tells tales of Bilbo's adventures before the party. Many strange people arrive to attend the party, including Gandalf and his fireworks. Gandalf goes to Bilbo's house and discusses Bilbo's plan, but it is very mysterious. More and more preparations are made for the party, and the town of Hobbiton becomes more and more excited. When the day of the party arrives, it is more of a festival than a simple party. Gandalf begins lighting off fireworks, and it is very impressive, and Gandalf even scares the hobbits with a dragon firework that signals dinner to begin. Bilbo really outdoes himself with the feast. When it is over, a speech must be made. Bilbo gives a speech that seemingly insults many of the guests, then he says goodbye and promptly disappears in a flash of light. The guests are quite upset and feel that more drink is needed to alleviate the dismay. At Bilbo's home, Bag End Bilbo prepares for a long journey when Gandalf arrives and insists that he leaves his magical ring behind for Frodo, but Bilbo is extremely reluctant to let go of his precious ring. Gandalf convinces Bilbo to leave the ring and Bilbo goes to leave, but the ring is still in his pocket. Gandalf reminds Bilbo that the ring is still in his pocket before Bilbo can leave. After leaving the ring behind, Bilbo leaves with 3 dwarves. When Frodo arrives back at Bag End, Bilbo is already gone and Bag End now belongs to Frodo. Frodo is surprised about the ring being left behind since he knows how precious it is to Bilbo. In the end, Frodo has to take care of all of Bilbo's final affairs and distributes gifts to all the family and friends. Unfortunately, many of the hobbits are unsatisfied with what they received, and they are also hoping to find the rumored treasure in Bilbo's house. Frodo is tempted to use the ring and run away himself, but Gandalf warns him not to use it for any reason before Gandalf leaves. Many years pass and rumors begin to spread of powers rising in the east, and elves are passing through the Shire toward the west. Gandalf returns with the news that Bilbo's Ring of Power may actually be one of the great rings of power. Gandalf must test the ring in order to confirm which ring it is. His fears are confirmed when he throws the ring into the fire and finds out that it is the one ring to rule them all. Gandalf has a long tale of how the ring came to Bilbo and then Frodo. Of how Smeagol acquired it and then became Gollum. Unfortunately, the Dark Lord himself has learned of the ring's existence and is now seeking it out. Frodo suggests destroying it, but it's not possible. The ring must leave the Shire, and Gandalf suggests Frodo go with it to Rivendell and take a companion he trusts. At this time, Gandalf realizes that Samwise Gamgee the gardener has been listening at the window and drags him inside. Gandalf decides that Sam will go with Frodo. Frodo decides that he will leave in the fall on his 50th birthday after he has gotten all his affairs in order. Frodo sells Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses and heads to Buckland with the excuse that he is moving closer to where he had grown up. After arranging everything, Frodo, Sam, and a hobbit named Pippin leave for Buckland. On the way, they hear a horse coming and believe that it might be Gandalf, so they hide in order to give him a scare, but it isn't Gandalf, it is a large black horse with a cloaked rider who seems to smell the air for the hobbits. Fortunately, the rider moves on. After speaking with Sam, Frodo finds out that they are being followed by the Black Rider. The hobbits continue their journey and sing songs as they go along, but another rider approaches and they hide. This time an overwhelming urge to put the ring on and disappear comes over Frodo, but at the last moment elves arrive and scare off the Black Rider. The elves urge Frodo and the others to join them after learning about the Black Rider. Sam, who has always wanted to see elves, is completely enraptured. They go to the elves' camp and the elves make merry. Frodo speaks to the elves and learns that there are more riders. The next morning the elves are gone, and the hobbits decide to take a shortcut off the road, but they soon get lost. They eventually find a way to Farmer Maggot's farm, and Pippin goes to meet the farmer, and they find that the riders have been looking for the hobbits even on Farmer Maggot's farm. Farmer Maggot gives the hobbits dinner and gives them a wagon ride to the Brandywine Ferry. As soon as they reach the ferry, they hear hooves and are suspicious that it might be another Black Rider, but fortunately it is just Merry Brandybuck, a hobbit who has come looking for Frodo and the others since he has helped set up Frodo's home in Buckland. Once they make it to the other side of the river, they look back and see a black shape sniffing around that seems to be one of the Black Riders. Fortunately, the riders cannot cross the river and must go many miles out of their way to catch up to the hobbits. Merry leads Frodo and the others to Frodo's new home in Buckland. It is a cozy little home, and Frodo feels bad that he is not going to be able to use it since he must continue on to Rivendell. Frodo hesitates to tell the other hobbits that he must leave, only to find out that the other hobbits actually already know and insist upon going with him. The hobbits decide to head out into the old forest instead of taking the road so that it is not known where they are going. The old forest is a strange and queer place that few people would ever go. The woods themselves seem to bear down on the hobbits with ill will and even seems to be directing them toward its deepest, darkest center. In the heat of the day, the hobbits begin to tire and get sleepier and sleepier until they must have a nap. They find shade under a great willow tree. Sam is suspicious of the sleepiness, and he's the only one to stay awake and try to recapture the ponies that have wandered off. When he brings them back, he finds Frodo in the water under a root. Merry and Pippin are being dragged into the tree itself. Frodo and Sam desperately try to save their friends, but it seems useless. Suddenly Frodo hears singing coming down the trail. A gay tune being sung by one Tom Bombadil. With little effort, Tom Bombadil saves Merry and Pippin from Old Man Willow. Tom happily leads the hobbits to his home. Tom tells them many stories of the old forest, and in the midst of all the telling, Frodo begins to tell his story, which Tom seems to know a lot about, and at one point Tom insists on seeing the ring. Tom takes the ring and puts it on his finger with no effect at all. Frodo almost suspects that it is not the same ring, so he puts it on, and it works as it should, but Tom Bombadil easily sees through the invisibility. The next day the hobbits must go, and this time the forest does not seem to hinder them nearly as badly. However, they again fall asleep in the heat of the day and wake to find themselves in mist. They are lost on the Barrow Downs and soon captured by a Barrow Wight. Frodo remembers a song taught to him by Tom Bombadil that he can use in times of need. Tom's singing voice answers. Tom swiftly saves the hobbits from the Barrow Wight and gives them blades from the Barrow Wight's mound. Tom decides that he must lead the hobbits out of the old forest since they get themselves in danger too often. After arriving back on the road, Tom Bombadil returns to his home and the hobbits continue on to Bree. Upon reaching the town, they head to the Prancing Pony Inn. There Frodo meets a man called Strider. Strider helps them out and insists on joining their company. At this time the innkeeper presents a letter from Gandalf to Frodo. It is unfortunately many months late because the innkeeper forgot to send it, and Gandalf was warning Frodo to leave as soon as possible. It is because Frodo did not receive the letter that the Black Riders are on his trail. Merry returns from a walk suddenly with news of Black Riders in the town. They put decoys in their room and hide in another. In the night the decoys are destroyed by the Black Riders and the company's ponies are scattered, but the hobbits are safe. Needing a pack animal, they buy a pony at 3 times its price that Sam names Bill. They head out from Bree, and Strider leads them along less known trails, and after 6 days they reach Weathertop. An old tower ruins. Upon reaching the tower they discover clues that Gandalf might have been there 3 days before. Unfortunately, they spot Black Riders following them and must hide in a sheltered dell. They light a fire because there is only one thing the Riders fear, and that is fire. Later that night the Black Riders attack the camp. A desire to put the ring on overwhelms Frodo and he puts it on. The figures are now even more visible than before, and they see Frodo more clearly than if he hadn't worn the ring. The leader of the Wraiths bears down on Frodo and stabs him in the shoulder with an evil blade. The riders back off hoping that Frodo will succumb to his wound, and they will easily be able to recover the ring. Fortunately, Strider has some healing skill and helps to ward off the evil blade's effects. They must hurry to Rivendell before Frodo succumbs to the wound. Frodo must ride Bill from there on. They ride hard and eventually come upon the 3 trolls Bilbo had long ago encountered. They continue on and meet an elf lord named Glorfindel. The elf lord gives Frodo his horse since Bill is not cut out for fleeing the riders with Frodo on his back. Glorfindel urges them on through the night without rest because the Black Riders are close on their trail. They continue on following the elf lord, but the hobbits are extremely weary. Eventually they come to the ford of Rivendell. The Black Riders are now desperate to catch them because the riders cannot allow the ring to make it to Rivendell. The elvish horse is faster than the 9 riders and it crosses the ford ahead of the riders but turns back to watch as the Black Riders cross the ford. Suddenly a great flood stampedes down the river and all the 9 are washed away.